As we draw closer to the November elections, one state is reflecting on its success, passing pro-life measures. Earlier this year, Idaho Governor Brad Little signed 3 pro-adoption measures. The bills were developed by the pro-adoption group Unplanned Good. The laws decrease costs for future adoptive parents, provide support for birth mothers, and bring education to students from middle school through college level on the option of adoption. Idaho is the first state in the nation to sign pro-adoption bills. And for more, we turn to Terri Marcroft, Executive Director of Unplanned Good and an adoptive mother. Terri, great to have you on this show. So much to get to, but first, I want to talk about you and why you started Unplanned Good. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Hi, Tracy. Thank you for asking. So my husband and I had a really beautiful adoption experience with our newborn daughter. And because our adoption experience was so seamless, it really baffled me when my friends had a hard time adopting. And so they faced infertility, tried to adopt. It just wasn't possible. And that baffled me because there are so many women facing unplanned pregnancy in this country, almost 3 million a year, that I had to look into that. And when I found out that less than 1% of them choose adoption, I thought we have to do something about that. We can bring that number up.
Yeah, definitely. Now, let's talk about those measures in Idaho. What exactly do they say, and what's been the response so far?
So the Idaho response has been just fabulous. People are very receptive to giving women another alternative so that they can still choose life, even if they don't want to choose parenting. And so the education bill specifically that we passed calls for any Idaho State school from 6th grade up through college, if they're talking in health class or sex education class about contraceptive or STDs, they will also now educate women about adoption, because a lot of them don't choose it just because they don't understand it. And so that's up through high school that it's included in those classes. And then in the college, if the students go to the medical centers and they're dispensing contraception or testing for STDs, the college also needs to hand out information about adoption.
That's so important. You know, as we talked about, this is the first state, Idaho is the first state to pass pro-adoption bills. Why do you think none existed before, Terri? And are there any other states that may be considering measures like this?
Yes, there are other states that are considering measures like this. I just talked with Oregon last week, and then we're getting it on the agenda for California as well, and then Idaho. But I had the opportunity to talk to a bunch of lawmakers about this over the summer, so it's really hard to say who's going to take that information and introduce it in their next session. But we're hoping that it's really replicated well. I've made templates available of the legislation of the final bills, and just invite any state who wants to promote adoption, especially as an alternative to abortion. They can use our templates and get something through their legislator pretty easily, I think.
That's wonderful. We're almost out of time, but I want to ask, what's next for your organization? And if people want to find out more information about it, where can they go?
So what's next for us is that last year was so beautiful in the legislature. We're going to do that again. I'm getting ready for the next session of the Idaho legislature to open, and we have 6 new bills on the plan. So we'll see what happens with those, but some of them are very exciting. And then how people get in touch with us, you can find us at unplannedgood.org, which has a whole lot of resources about adoption, funding adoptions, finding the right woman to work with in your adoption, and then contacting us to have your stories posted, because that's one of the most important pieces of education for young women, to hear the stories of other women who've chosen adoption. So all of that's at unplannedgood.org.
Absolutely. That is wonderful. It is so important. And Terri, thank you so much for speaking with us and all that you're doing. We really appreciate it. God bless.
Thank you so much, Tracy.